Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Jay Greenstein, founder and CEO of the Sport and Spine Companies, and welcome to SSR TV. Today we're going to talk about some really serious issues related to youth sports and injuries. So recently I attended the Youth Sports Safety Alliance conference in Washington, D.C., and I think there are really critical elements that parents and coaches and teachers and athletes need to know about, specifically as it relates to repetitive stress injuries. One is the pre-participation physical examination. It's a really critical component of prevention. Understanding things like balance, range of motion, flexibility, mobility, sensory motor control, all the elements that tie into that pre-participation physical examination is really important to identify deficits that the athlete might have in order to prevent them from having an injury. So that's number one. Number two, it's really important when you're asking your kids questions about potentially if they have an injury, or they're sore, or they're aching, maybe not focus on the symptoms because they may not want to report that because they want to stay in the game or they want to stay in practice, but really focus on the activity. So instead of asking, hey, does your arm hurt? Is your arm sore? Is it getting stiff? For instance, for a pitcher or an overhead athlete, it might be easier, it might be better to say something like, is it harder to hit your target? Is it harder to hit your spot? Is it harder to throw to your target? Because at that point, if they say yes, you can already start to get an understanding that maybe the athlete is fatigued and therefore at greater risk for having an injury. Number three, and I think this is a really important component, is about early specialization. Early specialization means only playing one sport and typically playing it year-round. So the operative age is 16. We don't want athletes specializing in one sport before the age of 16. Now we understand there are some sports out there that would just require some additional training. Swimming could be one, gymnastics could be another, but at the end of the day, they also need to be participating in other sports so that they can decrease their risk of having these types of injuries. The next element is called the 10% rule. We've seen in the scientific literature that if you increase your training duration or intensity by more than 10%, athletes tend to get injured. So parents, coaches, athletes, don't increase your intensity or the time you take for training more than 10% at any given time. So there's three elements again for prevention that really is defined as best evidence according to the scientific literature. The first is, again, diversification. Okay, we want the kids playing a variety of sports before the ages of 16. Number two is that they need to be tested for multi-directional balance. And so the better balance they have, the less predictive they are of having an injury. And three, specifically related to lower extremity injuries, it's really important to understand that these lower extremity injury prevention programs work. The scientific evidence has proven out time and time again, especially when it comes to ACL tears in female athletes, if you incorporate a lower extremity ACL prevention program, they actually decrease ACL tears in the female athlete population. So that is my summary of what parents need to know to ensure their kids do not suffer chronic repetitive stress injuries. Again, I'm Dr. Jay Greenstein for SSR TV. Thanks so much for joining us today.